And now it's time for our weekly UHERO report, the University of Hawaii Economic Research Organization. And this morning we're talking about the bill in Congress to reform financial regulations. This, of course, is a big topic in Congress now that healthcare reform has passed. And joining us this morning is Sumner LaCroix, economics professor at UHERO. Good morning, Sumner, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maya.
Now, I really love the name of the bill, and so we're going to put this on a graphic, and I'll just let you read the bill.
Okay. So
go ahead.
The title of the bill is a bill to promote the financial stability of the United States by improving accountability and transparency in the financial system, to end too big to fail, to protect the American taxpayer by ending bailouts, to protect consumers from abusive financial services practices, and for other purposes.
Wow, that is a really, really long name. What's the status of this very big bill?
Well, the status of the bill is that the House has passed the bill already. It's gone before the Senate Banking Committee. It's passed through the Senate Banking Committee. It didn't get any Republican support. It's now on the Senate floor, so it's very close. It's close to passage if it gets the votes in the Senate. The Republican leader is now trying to rally support against the bill. There's a few Democrats, too, who aren't quite on board. I think the consensus here, though, is that the two parties are still negotiating. The Democrats and Republicans are still negotiating. It wouldn't surprise me if a compromise was reached and there was a few Republican votes for the bill. I think it's likely to pass by mid-May.
And I know you were trying to actually read that bill. It's probably about that big if you stack it up. Did you make it through?
I did not. I did not make it through.
So.
I didn't make it through. I wouldn't be here this morning if I was still trying to do that. But it's 1,336 pages long. That's very comparable with the health care bill. It's extremely complicated. The health care bill was much easier reading.
What are some of the provisions in that bill?
Well, in this bill, unlike the health care bill, there are death panels. Okay, and so the death panels come about that if a bank gets in trouble, and it's now flagged by the Treasury Department or by one of the banking regulators, and the Treasury Secretary and the banking regulator agree that this bank is insolvent, then a 3-judge panel is convened, and those 3 judges can dissolve the bank within a week. And it basically follows a living will that the bank has put together earlier. That would be a very quick resolution. Supposedly, too, this would end bailouts, and that banks are now contributing to a fund that would be used to resolve any outstanding difficulties if the banks do get in trouble.
And a couple more provisions in that bill?
Well, it establishes a consumer protection agency within the Federal Reserve System. Many people feel that the current financial crisis came about because of lending by the commercial banks. It was far too risky. The regulated banks are not supposed to take such risky investments. The Consumer Protection Agency would basically try to be looking at the risk of the investments and also be trying to protect consumers from abusive lending practices. Such things as loans where after several years of paying off the loans, there's negative amortization. That means that you haven't even paid the interest on the loans, and that your debt is mounting, and that you'd never be able to repay, given your income. Last but not least, there's also a provision in the bill to establish some federal regulation of insurance companies operating overseas. This is important because AIG, that is one of the major reasons for the current crisis because of its issuance of securities that were incredibly risky. It did most of this out of a small London office. That London office was outside of the purview of regulators in the United States. This is an attempt to try to end those types of practices.
So lawmakers are looking at this to try to prevent another collapse of the financial markets. But do you think that this bill would prevent that?
I think it's still what's really unclear about the bill is when you look through it and try to ask, does it prevent excessive risk-taking by the big banks? And I think that's the critical question. The answer is I'm not quite sure. It does a little bit in that direction. I'm not really sure that it does enough. I think more probably should be done at this point. It does a better job of if a financial crisis comes up, of trying to figure out how to resolve the crisis quickly so that we don't end up with huge obligations by the taxpayers or with a situation that drags out for a long period of time.
All right, Sumner, thank you so much for trying to sort it out for us. I know it's a very big bill and it will make for interesting reading at night, right, Sumner?
Oh, it's a sleep inducer.
Okay, well, thank you so much for making it interesting for us. Sumner LaCroix of UHERO, and of course you can check out our website, KITV.com, in the Project Economy section and in our morning section for this interview and more on our other UHERO reports that we file.